Welcome to Hakikat Lab. Today, we are exploring one of the most significant figures in history through a different lens, the perspective of Western thinkers, scientists, and writers. Even during times when prejudice against Islam was at its peak, these great minds felt compelled to acknowledge the truth. What exactly did they say about Prophet Muhammad, Pooh? Let's look back at these fascinating confessions from the dusty pages of history. Our journey begins with Michael Hart, an American astrophysicist and historian. In 1978, he published a book titled The 100, a ranking of the most influential persons in history. Do you know who he placed at number 1? Prophet Muhammad. Hart justified this choice with a solid argument. My choice of Muhammad to lead the list of the world's most influential persons may surprise some readers, but he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on both the religious and secular levels. To Hart, he wasn't just a religious leader, he was the most effective statesman who built a great civilization from scattered tribes. He poses a simple, objective question: who else has ever achieved this? Moving from history to literature, we turn our gaze toward Germany. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a titan of world literature, never hid his admiration for the prophet. In his famous poems Mahomet's Gesang, Mahomet's Song, he portrays the prophet as a majestic river, starting as a small spring and growing into a vast ocean, bringing abundance to everything it touches. Goethe once stated, "No one can move further than the rules brought by Muhammad," emphasizing the timelessness of the universal morality established by Islam. For him, Muhammad was a guide who led humanity from darkness into light. Crossing over to England, we find the Nobel Prize-winning thinker George Bernard Shaw. Observing the chaos of the modern world in the 1930s, Shaw made a profound prediction: if a man like Muhammad were to assume the leadership of the modern world, he would solve its problems in a way that would bring it much-needed peace and happiness. I have prophesied about the faith of Muhammad that it would be acceptable to the Europe of tomorrow. Shaw didn't see him as a dictator, but as the savior of humanity. This wasn't just a defense of a religion, it was a sociological observation of reality. But how do we truly measure such a genius? The French writer and politician Alphonse de Lamartine established 3 criteria for evaluating greatness: greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and astounding results. Lamartine asked, who in modern history can be compared with Muhammad? The most famous men created only arms, laws, and empires. They often held only temporary power, which collapsed before their eyes. But he moved not only armies, legislation, and empires, but millions of men in 1/3 of the then inhabited world, and more than that, he moved the altars, the gods, the religions, the ideas, the beliefs, and the souls. According to Lamartine, he exceeded every boundary of genius expected of a human being. This sentiment was shared by the Scottish philosopher Thomas Carlyle. In his work On Heroes, Hero Worship, and the Heroic in History, he portrays Muhammad as the hero prophet. He fiercely rejected the Western claims of his time that labeled him a false prophet, stating, "A silent great soul, he was one of those who cannot but be in earnest." He had a fiery mass of life cast up from the great bosom of nature herself. Carlyle attributed his success to his absolute sincerity and a soul far too great to ever tell a lie. As you can see, these individuals were not Muslims, yet they were all seekers of truth. Michael Hart's data, Goethe's poetic intuition, Shaw's sociological foresight, and Lamartine's historical analysis all lead to one conclusion: Prophet Muhammad, Pooh, is a shared heritage for all of humanity. If the greatest minds of the Western world bowed in respect before his legacy, our duty is to understand and share that truth with even greater depth. Which of these names surprised you the most? Let's discuss in the comments below. That's all for today at Hakikat Lab. Don't forget to subscribe and like our video. See you in our next experiment. Stay in peace.